What's up, Fantasy League enjoyers? It's time for Melbourne playoffs. First off, let's have a quick look at our group stage standings. We finished in the top 36%. Normally, I think I'd be a bit disappointed about this because the gamble on QB nearly paid off, and I'll explain in a second why it didn't. But to be fair, this is the best result I've had in a while, so I'm going to cherish it. I'm not going to overlook this. Top 36%, not bad. Could have definitely been a lot better. Zaiwu, Mezzi both going through pretty uncontested in a really solid shape. Mouse also looking really good. Definitely good in terms of the points and where I've allocated some of these more budgety picks. Rain for 194k or whatever he was, 53 points is really solid, even though I've got issues with phase, which I will get back onto in a few moments. But where I kind of derped here with Big and QB in particular is I put my chicken booster on him, which if you don't know what that is, it gives you 0 points for whether you win or lose. So if you have a budget player that you think is going to get smoked by a better team, whack chicken on them, you don't get any negative points. But I put chicken on him against Mouse because Mouse was their first game, and I genuinely thought that he was going to get absolutely destroyed against Mouse. I thought it was going to be a bloodbath. He did okay against Mouse. He got like a 0.95 rating or something like that, which would have still been negative points, but not so bad. And then the next game they played, he got demolished. Who was that against? I can't quite remember now. It was against, 3D Max. So they lose against Mouse up here, and I'll show you the ratings. So QB was top fragger. He was top rating with a 0.95, and this is the game I put a chicken on him. Now, this would have still net him a few negative points. Maybe he'd have broke even, been like -2, something like that. But then he goes up against 3D Max, and, 0.75. God. So if that was reversed, I'd have more points, basically, is what I'm getting at, and I've misplayed that one. But I think realistically, if you offered most people and said, who do you think that QB is going to do worse v Mouse or 3D Max, most people probably would have said Mouse. So I can't look too much into that one. Overall, though, Zaiwu was a bit disappointing. I know it's weird to say for a player that's bagged 102 points, but for his massive 240k price tag, I think it was, he only got slightly more than Mezzi, who was very good value for money. But if I'd gone for like a Rops or a Flamesy, I would probably have been around the same amount of points as I would, maybe even a little bit higher. But I'd had an extra 25k to play with, which I could have used to buffer QB, and I'd had a much better team overall. So 102 points as I was a little bit on the disappointing side, even though obviously it's still 102 points. Either way, let's get into our matchups for our playoffs, because it's pretty stacked, I will say, but there are two teams that I'm definitely looking more towards in terms of getting to the grand finals. So on the upper side, you have Gamer Legion versus the Falcons. The winner of this game is going to be playing up against Mouse. And then on the lower side, the Mongols and Liquid, and the winner of which is going to go against Vitality. So I don't think it's going to be a huge surprise to anyone that me saying I think Vitality are the favourites to win this tournament. I think they're definitely making the grand finals on the lower side unless something goes horribly wrong. They're much better than the Mongols or Liquid, realistically, especially when you consider that Mongols have historically struggled at playoffs, and Liquid are a team that's still finding their way. The kind of core of their entire dynamic and how they work with Shui is altering as he's trying to change the roles and the positions and all of that kind of stuff, protocols, etc., etc. So realistically, Vitality should smoke either of these teams, and it should be pretty straightforward. In terms of who I think wins between these two, I think it's a 50-50. I think if you look at in terms of like how the teams have been looking as of late, you probably favor the Mongols. They did beat FaZe 2-0. They beat Complexity, who have been like pretty good recently. And it's also a team that has the capabilities of taking over the server against any team with the amount of talent that they have. My issues are, though, that Blitz has been a little bit underwhelming lately individually. Techno is all over the place with his kind of like consistency or lack thereof. So maybe there are a couple of chinks in the armor of the Mongols, especially, as I mentioned, in front of a stage. They're not necessarily the most dependable of teams. So maybe you could make an argument for Liquid, sure. And they've got some cheap players. I think Naf is still a bit of a concern for me. He hasn't quite picked up where we were maybe hoping when Shui joined the team, but maybe that's a work in progress that we'll have to wait and see. However, I think Vitality is a grand finalists. I think most people probably agree with that one. And then on the other side, it gets a bit more interesting. Now, Gamer Legion have only lost to Mouse. They then went through to the bottom side. They beat Complexity, and again, team that's been looking good lately. And then they beat FaZe. And it was Close, don't get me wrong, but they actually won a lot of clutch rounds, which you'd expect a team of this lack of experience in terms of the individuals and all the majors that FaZe have been to, all the tier 1 events that Carrigan and Rain in particular, but then Rops has been to tons, Brokey's been to tons, you know, Frozen's been to tons at this stage, and yet they were able to somehow, some way find a winning formula to get the win at 2-0, and that for me is really impressive. That's really important. Also, just putting to the back of everyone's mind, like, yeah, the MRQs were a massive disappointment. Ash wasn't there to coach them, and they failed. Like, straight up, they failed. They'd be the first people to admit this, but they wanted to make sure that the MRQs didn't dictate who Gamer Legion were. They wanted to bounce back with authority and show what they could do on LAN when they have Ash with them, and they did just that. Very impressed with them. I'm not so sure, as many people are saying, that this is a formality that Falcons win this game. I think they are the favourites, but I'd probably say like 60-40. I wouldn't be surprised if Gamer Legion won this. The Falcons are still in a transitional phase. Like, they have m0NESY coming across, sure. He is an incredible player. He didn't play phenomenally at this tournament. It's not like he was playing at a sort of like solo carry or one of the main carries of the team. He still needs to find his way with Kixan's IGLing. He still needs to find his way playing with Magisk and playing with Tesses. Like, these are unknown variables for him. And so I said going in my last video, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that, like, this is a team that's had very little time to practice together. Then you also have to factor on top of that, traveling to Melbourne in Australia is like 30 hours kind of travel time. I think some of Complexity guys were traveling for nearly 40 hours to get there, from leaving their house to arriving at the hotel. And for most other players, it's going to be 24 to 30 hours, like, easily. So that's time that they've not been able to practice. Sure, they've probably had conversations in the plane and everything and on the travel on the way there, but they're not on the server executing practices, protocols, and going through all those things. So they've had even less time to prepare together than people give them credit for. And so I think some of those kind of chinks will show in the armor and be exploited. Now, if by some miracle, it's not really a miracle, to be fair, that's overplaying it, if by a surprise they go through and they beat Mouse to make the grand finals, I think that's especially going to be shown in the best of 5, because maybe you've been able to prime 2 or 3 maps in this amount of time where everyone's comfortable, everyone's like feeling good. In the best of 5, your map pool's going to get properly tested, and Vitality, who are very likely to meet them there, they have been a team for a while now. Yes, with Rops, the new recruit, but the core of this team has been together for a long time. Apex knows what's going on, and I honestly think that Vitality win this tournament pretty easily. If it's a Mouse Vitality finals, as I expect, I think it could be like a 3-1 maybe to Vitality, but I still think that they have too many pieces. They are too strong. They are the best team in the world, and they are going to show it again here at the finals of Melbourne. So, with all of that being said, I'm expecting Vitality and Mouse to make the finals. But I will say, with this being my team, some of the prices here were astronomical, and it makes sense. There's only 6 teams. And I think when you have Vitality being the firm favourites as they are, you can't really put anyone under 200k, right? Because that's the average that you'd be looking for all 5 players. 200k per player equals $1 million. That's your starting budget. So if you're having players under 200k, that doesn't really seem reasonable, especially as Apex's individual rating is over 1.0. So just to show you the prices of some of these plays and how I've got to this point, I knew I wanted to double stack Vitality. That was a no-brainer for me. I was trying to figure out a way that I could get Flamesy and Mezzy together, because I think Mezzy's still a pretty reasonable price at 207k. Wasn't really possible without me going multiple very, very cheap plays and going into like Liquid plays or maybe Gamer Legion plays. And I did think at one point about double stacking Gamer Legion plays because they're super cheap. Res is 198, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, and PR's 197, Slender 193. These are super cheap plays, and they could beat the Falcons, but I decided against it. I wanted to play this a little bit more safe and go for sort of double Vitality, double Falcons, and then have also a Mouse player to guarantee me, at least in my eyes. Again, a Gamer Legion could do it. They're definitely good enough. I don't want to just completely write them off and say they're dead in the water here, but I feel as if having one of Gamer Legion, one of Falcons or Mouse to go through the finals is just wise. First off, I get the guaranteed points for Brolan. If you didn't know, any players that are already in the semi-finals that got a bye because they went through the upper finals flawlessly, they're going to get you 6 points each. So Brolan's going to get me 6 points, Flamesy's going to get me 6, and so is Apex. So I'm going to be starting at 18 points, I believe it is. And then we get to see if Falcons can go through or not. So for me personally, looking at this, I tried a couple of different kind of strategies in terms of going for players. I did think about stacking a couple of Game of Legion players, like I said. I even looked at like stacking a couple of Liquid players. Nothing really made sense to me. I tried to go at one point for Rops instead of Flamesy and drop down one of these other ones. I thought of like dropping down to Magisk, but I feel like that's wasting Falcon's potential, because Magisk sometimes is dropping less frags and less rating than Kixan is. There's a reason he's down in the 190s. Whereas Tesses is a player that can sometimes pop off. He's not been great recently. You know, he has gone missing a little bit. At one stage, he was, for me, the best Danish player, probably in the world, but definitely the best rifle player that they had. And since then, he's just gradually been dropping and dropping and dropping. He's had some stinker performances. But if Falcons do make it through, then I'm still looking at the prospects of Tessis doing okay and getting some positive points. I wanted to double stack Mouse, and that's why I'm bringing this up, but the prices of the rest of them are very, very high, which makes sense. They're in the semi-finals. They're going to get guaranteed points. But you can see why I've had to just go for Brolan and basically go for double Falcons rather than double Mouse. And it's a gamble, but if Falcons make it to the grand finals, I'm going to be in good shape. And if Mouse make it, then I still expect Vitality to win, so I'll be doing okay, bare minimum. I'd imagine a lot of people are double stacking Vitality, and a lot of people are going to try and double stack Mouse. So take that with a pinch of salt. But this is going to be my team. We've got Entry Fragger on Flamesy, we've got Attacker on Brolan, Eco-Friendly Kixan, Headshot Machine Tesses, and then finally support on Apex. I'll be putting my boosters later on. But do comment below and let me know what your thoughts are on this one, guys. Do you agree with me? Do you think there's going to be a shock? Do you think maybe Liquid the Mongols can squeak by Vitality? Am I too confident in Vitality's abilities? Have they been looking a little bit shaky lately and you think maybe they don't win this? Let me know. And of course, if you do enjoy this content, guys, it helps me tremendously if you do drop a subscription on the YouTube channel. It's completely free, but it will notify you when I put a video out there. And also, if you feel like doing it, hop across to my Twitch channel. I'm live most days, and feel free to come and hang out there. If not, no worries. I'll see you in the next videos, guys. Best of luck.